This might be the wildest dichotomy of a Drag Race season literally ever. The first 6 episodes of All Stars 10 felt like a return to form for the franchise. The vibes were there, great cast, fun challenges, amazing runways, and results that didn't want to make you pull all of your hair out. But wow, did things crash and burn over the second half of the season. I feel like this video is going to be like 10% episodes 1 through 6 and 90% episodes 7 through 12. But I pulled out the big guns for this video. Not only did I poll all of my viewers, but I also sent out a poll to other Drag Race creators to get their thoughts as well. And then my podcast partner in crime, KaylaSays, will be making some appearances throughout this video, giving some of her thoughts as well, since I know many of you missed the rigged recap for the season, so we thought we'd just give you a little nugget of what it would have been. All Stars 10, Kayla, I know you came in with very high expectations, like very high expectations.
Oh yes, me, the All Stars lover. The lover of the RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars franchise. I thought this was gonna be great.
There's a reason why we didn't do it on the rigged recap.
There is a reason, and for everyone messaging me, I don't know about you, but I've gotten so many messages of people being mad that we didn't cover All Stars 10. This is why. I'm gonna be the nice one during this.
No, bitch, you can't.
I'm gonna be the nice and positive one.
Okay, we'll see how long it lasts. So, but with all of these perspectives as well as my own, I think that we can definitively crack the case on the Riggory of All Stars 10. Now, we are going to look at each bracket individually, of course, so we're going to dive in right into my favorite of the brackets, the orange bracket, and it consisted of Aja, Bosco, Deja Skye, Irene the Alien, Olivia Lux, and Phoenix. Now, right off the bat, I think we have to acknowledge that this is Aja's 3rd time back and everyone else's 2nd. But Aja has never made it to the end of a season or been a finalist, so seeing her back for a 3rd chance, I was genuinely so happy. And it didn't feel as unbalanced as some other casting choices on this season were. I was also so happy to see Deja, shout out to that diva, who is one of the kindest, nicest queens in this entire fandom. I cannot say enough nice words for Deja. We've worked together on videos a few times, and each time she is an absolute delight. So make sure you're watching her YouTube channel as well if you are not. She does tons of makeup content, lip sync content. She's wonderful. One of the most interesting relationships coming into this bracket is the one between Bosco and Irene, who had 2 very different storylines on their original seasons. Irene and Bosco are drag sisters from Seattle, and while Bosco slayed season 14, winning through challenges, making it all the way to the grand finale, Irene was the pork chop queen the following season. And getting the lowest placement out of literally any queen ever was 16th place. So, while Bosco had high expectations on her due to her previous season and how well she did, Irene kind of had no expectations. Like, I think we all knew she could have gone further on her season, but we'd only ever seen her compete in one challenge. So, who knows what she was going to bring this season. Another relationship in this bracket is between Aja and Olivia Lux, who are both part of the same ballroom house, Miyake Mugler. And while Olivia wasn't a huge fan favorite or anything on her season, she did win 2 challenges and made it to the top 5. So her getting an All-Stars call is not shocking whatsoever. It almost felt overdue at this point. Plus, with her diving deeper into ballroom, it was going to be interesting to see where her drag would be now and how that would have impacted her perspective on drag. The biggest wild card, though, of this entire bracket is Phoenix. She was on season 3 all the way back in like 2011 and went home 2nd. But I knew that she'd been a huge staple in the Atlanta scene and did not fade away after the show. Even after all of these years, she's still such a huge staple in her scene. But she hasn't been in the collective consciousness of the show. So seeing how she would do after all these years was going to be interesting either way. So going into this bracket, I was very excited. There were queens like Deja and Aja and Bosco that I lived for. There were some wild cards like Phoenix and Irene, and plenty of relationships between them all to make the strategy even more intense. Now, let's talk about the format. I actually think it's really cute. Giving 6 queens time to shine and not have to worry about going home is great. I low-key wish we got like 4 episodes with each bracket though, because it does feel like by the time we got to bracket 3, we kind of already forgot about and moved on from a lot of the queens who didn't make the merge. I love the point system. I love how the girls who are not in the top had a point to give away. I think it's giving strategy, it's giving Survivor, Big Brother. You know I live for that shit. And low-key, it gives the queens kind of a share of what happens, instead of it all being in the hands of production's grubby little fingers. And I think of any bracket, the format worked best here, because we had alliances, we had strategies, we had gaggy moments, but everything felt very fair and well earned. So let's start diving into these episodes, starting with the premiere episode of this season, where the queens have to compete in the Winner Winner Chicken Dinner Rock Group Challenge, and then show off a slits and tits runway. Now, I had you guys rank the queens' overall performances of the week, including both the runway and the challenge, a few weeks ago, and we got over 3,300 results, so thank you to everyone who did that Google form. So I feel like we have some solid data to go off of. Now, you guys ranked Aja and Irene at the top of this episode, and Olivia and Phoenix at the bottom. And I do have to basically 100% agree with this ranking. Aja came in swinging so hard with this episode. I was a little worried if she was going to be able to shift her performance ability into a more rock style. But, like, come on. This is Aja we're talking about. Like, she could turn it out to, like, Tiny Tim if she wanted to. Of course, she was going to slay it. And while her Jinx-inspired runway wasn't the greatest, it was clear that she was the very best of the challenge. And also, Irene also slayed the challenge and showed so much personality. She really met the vibe of like the rock group that they were looking for. And this runway, she is looking so good. So many of Irene's unused runways on season 15 were absolutely stunning. So I knew that the looks would not be an issue for Irene this season, but damn, she was still able to blow me away regardless with her package this season. And then Bosco rounds out the top 3 with a high placement, which she got in the episode. I feel like this makes sense. She did great in the challenge, but I don't think she fit the rock vibe as well as Aja and Irene did. And she didn't stand out in general as much as those two did. But her runway was everything. The Seattle girlies just hit different this season. But also, the way that I'm going to have to blur Bosco's boobs like 90 times this video, like, and I'm not even mad that I have to do the extra work because she was blessing us this season and confusing every gay that was watching. I think Deja and Olivia did super well this week though too, especially on the runway. They both looked beautiful. I live for the colors of Deja's dress. She literally has never looked better. I will say, I don't think Phoenix rose from the ashes the way we were hoping that she would in this premiere. I think she just seemed kind of nervous. She kind of faded into the background for most of the performance. She was like on the drums, which like didn't help. And her verse was just kind of awkward. It wasn't super memorable. But overall, I think it was a great start to the season, both with the challenge and the runway. Aja and Irene are named the top 2 of the week. I totally agree. You guys did as well. And they lip sync to Think You the Shit Fart by Ice Spice, which, listen, I think we were all doing a collective eye roll, but forgot that Aja could make literally any song work. And Aja worked this lip sync out. Like, she had so many amazing moments. I want Aja on every season just so I can watch her perform because she is truly mesmerizing. So with that, Aja wins the premiere episode and takes home 3 points, while Irene takes home 2. And I, after watching this premiere, had very high hopes for this season. This episode was so fun. It had so many great looks, so many great moments. We already saw multiple alliances starting to form, so the strategy was on point. Irene got a huge redemption moment right off the bat. Bosco's tits were on full display for the viewing audience. Like, what more could you ask for? And the good vibes continue into the second episode as we see the queens in the bottom give away points for the first time. And they end up doing it pretty fairly, making sure that all of them get 1 point. But we see that this will not be the case for every episode moving forward. We move into an improv comedy challenge called Murder on the Dance Floor. And oh my god, this was so stupid, but I lived for it. Each queen has a different character they have to portray and will be improving with Ru throughout the challenge. I would say overall, most queens did a good job, but the main standouts were Deja as this like cougar who's horny for RuPaul, Bosco as a blind showgirl, and Irene as this like two-faced villain. Irene shifting accents and characters when RuPaul susses her out is one of the greatest acting moments from this entire franchise.
Well, aren't you a clever bear, Mr. Poussey?
It was insane. Irene truly gagged me in that moment. But Bosco was making Ru break character. She was so hilarious. And Deja was finally able to kind of let go a bit and have fun. And as for the others, Aja did a solid job, especially since improv has been kind of a huge problem for her in the past. But I just don't think she had as many funny moments as the top 3. And then Olivia and Phoenix, I just don't think did super well in this challenge. They both just felt too serious and not funny enough. But this is kind of a weird episode for Olivia, who gets into a little tiff with Bosco when Bosco kind of makes like a funny jab at her. It kind of felt like an overproduced moment by Olivia, who came off on her season a little bit infantile, I would say. Like, that was just kind of her vibe, kind of meek. And I think she was trying to show that, like, she is, like, a bad bitch now and she won't take any shit this season. But I just don't think that her anger was justified for how, like, silly Bosco's dig was. So it really did come off as her just trying to, like, make a moment out of nothing. And unfortunately, I do think out of everyone in this bracket, Olivia took away the least net gain. Like, even Deja and Phoenix, who didn't move on, had really great moments and were able to really show more of themselves to the audience. Like, we learned a lot about Deja's kind of scary journey with her weight loss surgery and how she was able to recover, but still kind of struggles with some of those insecurities that are kind of what held her back on this season the most. But Deja was also just that, like, classic, like, dad joke energy in the workroom the whole time, and she was really lovely to watch. And Phoenix was able to, like, completely reintroduce herself to a brand new audience and show off some really fun looks, and was fantastic in the confessional. She kind of stayed out of the drama and was mostly just, like, positive energy every week. Olivia, she has this weird exchange with Bosco, then she later has an argument with Aja, and I think just comes out looking not the greatest in both of these. And I feel bad because Olivia has so much talent and can turn some amazing looks, as we saw in this bracket. But I really just think she got overshadowed in the challenges and unfortunately wasn't given much, like, positive screen time in the workroom either. But, like, there are several queens from this season I'd love to see come back for, like, a full season of All-Stars. And I think Olivia would be one of those. I think there's still so much to learn about her, and she has so much left to show and kind of grow in the challenges. This episode also has the coming and going runway, where the front of the look has to be completely different from the back, and literally everybody looks fantastic, but Bosco and Irene really knock it out of the park. They literally have two of my favorite looks in recent years. Bosco's cinched coffin will go down in history. Like, it is so good. So from both the challenge and the runway, the top two is very clearly Bosco and Irene, which the polls all agreed with. They lip sync to Murder on the Dance Floor. Amazing song. So happy we got to see it as lip sync. And while both queens do well, Bosco is just like, come on, you cannot take your eyes off of her. She is in this satin flowing dress that she's working the shit out of. And then, of course, she reveals into something that's all basically naked. And this episode is just a showcase of how top tier Bosco is at everything drag. Like, amazing looks, amazing comedy, amazing performance, amazing personality, shady, getting into it with the girls. Like, it's no wonder Bosco's probably the fan favorite of this season, because she is just so fucking good at drag and TV. And she really did bring her best, I think, to this season. The last episode of this bracket is The Makeover, and this episode was everything. They bring in some women's basketball players that they have to then make over into drag queens, but we get a super fun mini challenge where they have to like shoot hoops, and it's just fun to watch like gay people like try and like play basketball. And it just really showed off like how much charisma everyone in this bracket has. This episode is also where we see the relationship between Aja and Olivia sour when Olivia doesn't give Aja her point at the start of the episode. And unlike last episode, where everyone got a point, Deja and Olivia get all the points this time, and Aja is not happy. Aja, like, laughing in Olivia's face is seriously one of the best moments of the season.
What?
It's just too good. And also, like, sidebar, I won't call any, like, point decisions rigged, because it's fully in the queen's hands what they do with those. So even if it's, like, something that's unfair or, like, anything like that, it's not rigged, because the queens literally got to do whatever they wanted with those points. This is kind of like a two-part challenge where they have to show off looks on the runway, but also perform in a verse challenge after. And some of these basketball divas definitely looked a bit stiff. They definitely looked a bit nervous, which is to be expected for their first time in drag on national television. But I really think Bosco and Deja's partners had so much personality and were so much fun to watch on stage and in the workroom. When it comes to the looks, Irene is 10s across the board for like the third week in a row. Like, she clearly has the best looks on that stage and killed the performance part of the challenge as well. But I think second place is a very close race between Bosco and Olivia. They both have very different but very stunning looks. Olivia had so much fun on the main stage with her partner. Having like the headphones be connected was such a fun bit, and it really like showed like the interconnectivity of her and her partner. And Bosco was able to make her diva look like a seasoned professional. They both killed it, but I do get why they chose Bosco to be in the top. Her partner was so great and memorable, and the looks were so intricate, while Olivia's were a bit more straightforward. But if Olivia was going to win any week, this was hers. She was super, super close. And looking at the poll results, yet again, you all agreed with the judging, as did I. And then we get a super fun lip sync between Bosco and Irene to a Jennifer Hudson song, and Irene, like, low-key kills it. I think after losing 2 lip syncs in a row, she came in with a fire to this one. So Irene gets her 3rd win in a row and also wins a lip sync. And how amazing for Irene. I mean, a pork chop queen who literally got 16th place, the lowest placement anyone has ever gotten. She comes back and absolutely annihilates, winning every single episode. Like, you know, sometimes they bring back early outs, and no shade, you can see why they were early outs. But I love when an early out comes back and proves that they can find success on the show, and that is exactly what Irene did. After all the points are divvied up, Bosco, Irene, and Aja get to move on, and this does feel correct. While Deja and Olivia both had standout moments in episodes 2 and 3 respectively, the three that moved on felt like kind of the main characters of this bracket. They did the best overall and brought so many great moments. I took the averages of the results of the poll each week, and this is how it shaked out. So the three who move on were the most consistent from this bracket. But truly props to the other three for making such a fun bracket, bringing such amazing vibes. This felt like a puzzle, and each of them were bringing like a different piece to make the whole thing fit. This was my favorite bracket, and it's just like the good vibes bracket. Like, I'm gonna go back and rewatch these 3 episodes all the time just because it's gonna bring me so much joy. And I can't say that for the other 2 brackets. I mentioned earlier that I did a little poll with some fellow Drag Race YouTube channels. So we're going to go over their responses now. But at first, I do want to shout them out. So thank you so much to Drag Race Tea Served with Matt, Amandum, aka Amanda from Press Conference, and Nidu from Press Conference, Black Boy, Bootsy, The Archie Merc, YC Rhino Reactions, of course, KaylaSays, O Edie, Maddie Rants, Runner Eye, and Jack Fed. Thank you all so much for taking part. I appreciate you all, and you are all icons. Here are all of their channels. Make sure you go subscribe and watch their content if you're looking for more Drag Race content. Now, the scores that they gave were all out of 10. So for chemistry, I asked, how well do you think this cast got along, or how were the dynamics interesting to watch? And I got a 7.39 out of 10. For twist, I asked, how well do you feel like this group utilized the twist and the format? And this one got a 5.84. Performances was just in the challenges. Overall, how well do you think this group did? They got a 7.53. Runways got a 7.23, Lip Syncs got a 7.38, and overall vibes, how much did you enjoy this bracket? They got a 7.92. Again, those are all out of 10. So across the board, we're not in the 8s, but we're well above average. The audience score is, I asked in the poll I put out, just how much did you enjoy watching this bracket? Out of 10, and the audience gave it an 8.01. So I feel like YouTubers and audience kind of in the same vein of like, this was really good, they enjoyed it, it's above average, but it's not like 10 out of 10, which, I mean, obviously I have my own bias, I like this bracket the most, but I think I just vibed with these queens the most. But those were the results. Now let's see what Kayla had to say.
I think the orange bracket was solid. You definitely had a clear top half versus the bottom half, and that's okay. It was relatively entertaining. Not anything spectacular. I feel like I align with those results that you just read.
But I do feel like this one maybe gets forgotten because the second one had all the drama and the third one had all the riggory. This one is just kind of like, fine. Like across the board, it's fine.
Neutral. Very neutral.
Moving into bracket 2, this was the drama bracket. Like, how could you expect anything else, though, considering Mistress Isabel Brooks is one of its members? Looking at the 6 queens from this bracket, we get our first kind of head-scratcher casting choice in Jorgeous. Now, Jorgeous was on All-Stars 9, and never before has a queen competed in back-to-back All-Stars. Was she underrated by the judges on All-Stars 9? Yes. Did we need her back immediately? I'm not so sure. All-Stars is about queens coming back and showing the growth in their drag and what they've done since the last time they were on the show. And I'm not sure Jorgeous had any growth at all in like less than a year since All-Stars 9. I don't know, it just seemed a bit unfair to have a 3-time All-Star and someone that RuPaul adores in the same bracket with, like, Nicole Paige Brooks, who is an early out on season 2 and hasn't touched Drag Race in well over a decade. Jorgeous is going to have an advantage there. She's done the newer challenges. She's experienced the recent culture. And when it's on a cast of, like, 12, it's less stark in contrast. But when there's only 6 queens playing at a time, the difference feels much more profound. Mistress is such a clear choice to bring back for an All-Stars. I mean, her drag is amazing, and she is literally there to start drama and be a troll. Like, that is her entire brand, so you know she's going to bring good TV and good drag. Carrie was also a great choice. She had so much potential on season 14 and basically won the confessional all season long, but she was never able to bring that charisma from the confessional to the challenges. But after a few years since her season, I was so excited to see her growth and just kind of see what she was up to now with her drag. Lydia is a very interesting pick. We know now that she was only there because Maddie Morphosis dropped out very last minute and Mirage turned down the offer to come back in Maddie's place. So then Lydia was the next in line to ask. But I'm actually not that mad that Lydia was brought back so soon. She had like 5 days to prepare for this season after coming back from filming season 17. But I feel like she learned a lot about herself and her drag and what the judges liked about it on season 17, so she could bring more of that to All Stars right away. I feel like there's a difference between like Georges, who we saw do that on All Stars 9, but then immediately comes back for All Stars 10, and like Lydia, who like just figured that out and now she can apply it to her first All Stars, if that kind of makes sense. Now, Tina Burner and Nicole Paige Brooks were the two wild cards for me personally from this bracket. It had been so long since Nicole had been on Drag Race, I wasn't sure how she was going to adapt. And then Tina is such an incredible queen outside of the show. She's, constantly doing tours and she's doing so many things in New York. She's booked, she's blessed, but she wasn't able to capture that spark on season 13. So I was definitely excited to see her get a second chance to kind of show the audience why she's such a force in New York City. Overall, though, I was very excited for this bracket, and from the jump, they did not disappoint in the drama department. Basically, from the word go, Mistress was plotting and planning and being her devious self. Her alliance with Georges is kind of the main storyline through this bracket, with Lydia kind of being pulled into the dark side, and Carrie, Tina, and Nicole being the outsiders. But we also see an interesting arc with Lydia, where originally it seems like she might work with Tina Burner, but she ends up dumping Tina to work with Mistress and Georges. But throughout all of these antics, Lydia never becomes unlikable. Like, despite siding with the villains of this season, she is just so charismatic and lovely to watch. And I think her being on this season was like fate. Like, she was meant to be here. Looking at the first episode of this bracket, they had a really fun design challenge where they had to create a look using 8 different elements given to them inside of an 8-ball, and all 8 elements had to be used. So we saw some kind of crazy design choices that people had to make in order to include all the fabrics and like pieces that they were given, but I do think most of these outfits work. This was probably Georges's like best design look in all 3 seasons. It's very intricate. You can tell it's all hot glued, but she did a really great job of giving herself a nice silhouette and using all of the materials well. Carrie kinda looks a mess, but she always just throws way too much on in these design challenges, and it always just ends up looking so haphazard. Lydia was giving 80s punk glam down, and I think really refined her kind of crazy design concepts, but still making it feel Lydia. Mistress looked good, but that wig was a choice, and like most of her materials were on the bag. Like, she literally just shoved the blue tulle inside the bag and called it a day. So I don't know if she made the most out of all of the fabrics and elements that she was given. Nicole? And then Tina absolutely devoured this. So stunning, so well tailored. This is an S-tier design look. And when RuPaul was like, I didn't know that Tina had this in her, like, that's how we all felt as the audience. I mean, if you follow her journey from New York, like, you know that she is an incredible queen. But, like, this was so good. And I was so happy that Tina had this moment from second one to kind of prop her up in the fandom and kind of change her storyline about how the fans see her in her drag. So when Lydia and Tina are called the top 2, I don't think anyone was shocked. And the poll results showed this as well. They lip-synced to Love Sensation, and while they both did well, Lydia just like has everyone transfixed when she lip syncs, and she takes home the win. This just felt so correct after she had such little time to prepare for the season. She still came out on top the first episode of her bracket. And it showed the other queens why she was brought back in the first place, because they never even saw her season. Like, they're like, who's this bitch? So no Riggory in episode 1. Episode 2 is where things really get heated with this group, as Mistress and Georges stage like a coup of these extra points, tricking Carrie and Nicole into giving them their points, and then just giving theirs to each other, meaning Carrie and Nicole walked away with nothing, and Mistress and Georges each get 2. And, like, after the episode prior where Georges and Mistress, like, form an alliance with Carrie, they literally just leave her out to dry. They leave her to the wolves in this episode, and that just kind of sent me. But Carrie becomes an even more sympathetic queen because she gets screwed over here. So just like watching Carrie throughout this, just getting screwed over left and right, like it's sad because we love Carrie, but also her reactions to everything are so funny. It did make for some TV gold. But like, listen, I will not hold this against Georges or Mistress. As someone who loves Big Brother and Survivor, and like when people make those iconic dirty moves on those shows, like this was iconic to me. Someone on Survivor asked a woman to take out her fake teeth for everyone to see in order to get her jury vote, and then still didn't vote for her in the end.
I want everyone to see you the way I saw you that day. I want you to take out your teeth, Dawn.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I want you to do
I don't
that.
understand how that...
Mistress and Georges conning the queens for some points is child's play compared to what like people like Brenda have done on Survivor. This whole episode just kind of felt perfectly set up for Mistress and Georges, since the main challenge is a roast, this time in the form of a rap. It is the Rappin' Roast. Also, Chapel Roan is in this episode, and she was everything. And this might be my favorite challenge of the entire season. Like, the way everyone ate this roast up so hard. Even the queens who aren't in the top, like, had great performances. I loved the looks. I loved the sets. I loved the verses. I loved that Chapel fucking Roan was there to witness it all. Like, this is my favorite episode of this bracket by far. I will say, this is the episode where Michelle's critiques started to become a bit confusing, which kind of becomes a running theme throughout this season. Something we will see just get kind of worse and worse. But we knew that Michelle is a mouthpiece for producers sometimes, which is valid. I mean, some of the judges' critiques have to match the results that the producers come up with, even when the results make no sense. Therefore, sometimes judges' critiques won't make any sense. But it felt like Michelle took things to almost a disrespectful territory to prove her points this season. And maybe that is because some of the results are that crazy that, like, she has to kind of really read the girls down to, like, drill in why they aren't in the top or why they didn't win the challenge. It just kind of came off not great at points. She calls out Tina and Lydia for rapping too fast for Michelle to understand any of the words. And Chapel immediately calls her out, saying, "That's literally the point of rap, Michelle." And Chapel had no problems understanding either of them, which I would agree. I could pretty much understand it. I mean, besides the bad mixing, but that's not the queen's fault. Michelle also gives Lydia a weird critique that she looked nervous during her verse, which I personally didn't see whatsoever. And it just felt like that one critique to justify why Lydia wasn't in the top, which, like, I'm not sure really needed to be there. Mistress and Georges annihilate this challenge, shocking no one. And on the runway, their looks were also super fun and camp. Lydia, I think, did a solid third place job. She was like right behind them. But rather than Lydia, they put Nicole Paige Brooks in the top, which, listen, I love Nicole as much as the next gay, but Nicole was a bit stiff in her performance. And on the runway, she had like the strangest reveal we've seen in a long time. She sheds her cactus skin and then is the cactus flesh beneath. Insane choice, but that is why we all adore Nicole Paige Brooks. And this was how you ended up ranking all the girls. I fully agreed. Tina did a great job, though Tina did do a good job this week, though. I thought she looked beautiful on the runway, and I'm very happy she got her like full runway redemption this season, because this really is night and day compared to season 13. Like, she might have had my favorite runway of each episode, low-key, like first or second favorite each week. This was really just a great episode for everyone across the board, and it showed how insanely talented this entire group was. And you're probably sitting here saying, like, wow, Derek, there's no Riggory this season. Like, everything has been really fair. And I would say, yes, absolutely. But everything changes right here, in my opinion, at the lip sync for the top two. We have Jorgeous and Mistress lip syncing to Hot to Go, which I think is a bad song choice, in my opinion. Like, I'd rather see Super Graphic Ultramodern Girl or Good Luck Babe or Femininomenon. Hot to Go is fun, but it's like a bit one note for a lip sync. And Mistress and Jorgeous both kind of do fine. Mistress honestly actually does bad. She's dressed in all black, doing Chapel Roan, performing it like it's a ballad for some reason. And then Jorgeous is just doing so much. Like, she is an Energizer bunny all over that stage. Like, this is a cheerleader-esque, like, bop, and neither really gave that energy. But Jorgeous was clearly the better of the two. But then Ru announces it's a tie, and they both get to share the extra point. And this made no sense. I truly think they only did this so that both of them got a little bit of a boost, since there's no way in hell anyone would be giving them a point after their shenanigans earlier in the episode. And it's clear production wanted these two to move on. I mean, why would you not? There are more shenanigans when the bottom queens give out their points, as in this episode, Lydia clearly takes the side of Jorgeous and Mistress and leaves Tina in the dust. And I felt really bad for Tina, basically this entire bracket. I mean, she tries to start an alliance with Lydia, someone she clearly really vibes with, while also dealing with getting dragged into stupid drama by Mistress. And then her only ally ditches her for the queen who's been antagonizing her this entire time. And despite winning a challenge, she does not make it through to the next round. So it was a rough ride for Tina, but I'm glad that the fan base gets to see her talent, and she's redeemed a lot of her run from season 13. The final challenge of this bracket is a rusical inspired by RuPaul's movie Star Booty. And again, this group does pretty well. They assign roles so that Mistress and her minions play the villains, and Tina, Nicole, and Carrie play the heroes in the rusical, and that's just like narrative gold. Also, can I just say how great it was to have Ru take part in so many challenges this season? It just shows like that she can talk the talk still after all of these years. She is such a professional. It's crazy. Lydia, Jorgeous, and Carrie are all standouts in this challenge, with Lydia and Jorgeous also having stunning runways for the Wild Wild West runway. So Jorgeous and Lydia being in the top two was not surprising to me, but Carrie also did incredibly well, probably the best she's ever done in a Drag Race challenge, and that should be acknowledged. The poll results show that you all agreed with the winners, and after a lip sync to Texas Hold'em, Jorgeous wins. But low-key, like, I don't think this was a great song choice either. Like, we've barely even touched Renaissance on Drag Race. Why are we already doing so much Cowboy Carter? So, Jorgeous and Lydia are absolutely moving on to the next round with 2 wins each, but that third spot is up for grabs, and Nicole hatches a plan with Tina to try and knock Mistress from the top and put Carrie through. And this is my favorite moment from this bracket. Like, it's like a comic book where the heroes are trying to figure out how to take down the bad guy, but the bad guy was just one step ahead of them already, because Tina and Nicole give Carrie their points, but Mistress does not give hers to Carrie like she said she would, saving herself in the process and ensuring that she moves on to the final bracket instead. So overall, not a ton of Riggory this bracket, and it was a lot of fun, but things are about to take a huge shift. But let's see what everyone thought about this bracket in my polls. For cast chemistry, they got an 8.23. For the twist, they got a 9.23 because of course they did. For the challenges, they got a 7.38. For runways, they got a 7. Lip syncs got a 6, kind of on the lower end. And the overall vibes got an 8.46. And as for the audience score, a little bit higher than Bracket 1. Bracket 1 got 8.01. This one got 8.54. So I would say overall people like this bracket better than Bracket 1, but there's not a huge discrepancy. This is getting closer to like a 9.0 though, which is pretty damn high. Unfortunately, we will see the numbers start to tank once we get to Bracket 3.
I thought this was the best bracket because I was entertained. I, at this point, don't really go into All Stars expecting fairness or a particularly rousing competition. So, because I don't look for anything that makes a fun or engaging competition, I just look for mess. And this had mess, and I liked it.
Do you feel like the mess got too much or like went too far? Or do you feel like it was like just like the perfect amount of mess?
No, there's no such thing as too much mess. I would have liked it to be even messier. And it's also just the best bracket because it has Nicole Paige Brooks.
From Atlanta, Georgia.
From Atlanta, Georgia.
Why don't we talk about the problem child bracket of All Stars 10? All right, this last bracket, well, it happened, and we'll talk about it, but I feel like now is a good time to say it is no queen's fault where production chooses to place them or how they decide to push them or not push them. Production absolutely comes in with favorites, especially on All Stars, and will push who they want to push. But it's not like the queens are coming in handing them 100 and saying, bump my placement up a bit, bitch. Like, that's not what's happening. Any negativity towards this season I have in this video is directed at production, not the queens. And that should be the way it is for everybody. I think we're forgetting it is okay to critique a show when a show is worthy of critique. When Drag Race is playing in our face, we are allowed to call it out. We are allowed to talk about it. We're allowed to be a bit negative about it. But that does not mean that we can direct that negativity towards the queen. So I just want to make that very clear. Any negativity, anything that I disagree with, it is not the queen's fault. And we do not need to be going to their DMs or tagging them in comments about any of that. Now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's look at the makeup of this bracket. This one feels kind of the most random. You have Cynthia Lee Fontaine, who comes in with two connections. One to Acid Betty, her season 8 sister and close friend since, and the other to Alyssa Hunter, her Puerto Rican sister. And I just want to say, I am so happy that Cynthia has gotten a chance back. But I'm also so happy that Acid Betty is getting a chance at All Stars. My first thing I ever did on this channel, before it was even The Drag Detective, was a Fantasy All Stars, and Acid Betty was on that cast. And that was for an All Stars 5. That was for a Fantasy All Stars 5. That is how long I've been making videos on this channel. That's crazy. But Acid Betty should have been back long before now, if I had anything to say about it. So I was very excited to see Miss Acid back. The other three choices for this bracket are a bit random. You have Denali, a queen people who have been wanting back for so long. She was a massive fan favorite on season 13 that people felt was robbed, and through touring and her YouTube channel, she's kind of been a staple of the fandom ever since her season finished airing. And I get the vibe, and I think she actually confirmed that she has been asked back probably multiple times, but was waiting for the right time. Then you have Daya Betty, another queen from season 14 who had some mild drama with Alyssa at the reunion, and like they do try and milk that for storyline, but she was seen as a major villain that people actually ended up kind of loving by the end of her season. So was also very happy to see Daya back. And then Ginger Minj. I spoke about this topic in depth in this video I will put in the top right corner. But in that video, I talk about her history with the fandom, her reception on previous seasons, and why I don't think she should have been cast on this season. But in short, this is her 4th time back, and she's made the finale twice. I mean, she is a Drag Race aficionado, and she's competing against, like, Cynthia Lee Fontaine and Alyssa Hunter, who have never truly excelled at the show. And then Denali and Acid, who, like, made it halfway on their seasons. And Daya, who made it to the finale. But none of them have done an All-Stars before. And Ginger is on her 4th time. That is just not fair at all. She's coming in with such a huge advantage over everybody else. I feel like if they wanted to bring back Ginger, if they wanted to bring back Georges, they should have had one bracket of just previous All-Stars contestants that they're giving another chance. You know, bring back Coco, bring back Thorgy, bring back Derek. But, like, having one 4-time contestant with a bunch of, like, 2-time, it just feels very lopsided. And it feels like, well, of course they're going to go through. You know what I mean? Because how are you going to have Ginger Minj flop on her 4th time? Like, let's be real. That's not going to happen. And I think it also just kind of puts her at a disadvantage with the fans, because why would you root for Ginger when you're already assuming she's going to make it to the end? You're going to be rooting for the underdogs. You're going to be rooting for the people that you're not sure how they're going to do. Like, I really hope Denali makes it, or I really hope Acid Betty makes it. But, like, not many people are going to be sitting there rooting for the person that is clearly going to make it through, because that's just less interesting. So I feel like it set Ginger up poorly. I feel like it set the other queens up poorly. And I don't know who this is good for in the long run, except, I guess, production, because they're bringing back someone they want to see make the end, and clearly she's going to make the end. So looking at the first episode of this bracket, it really did set the tone for the whole thing, and it wasn't a good tone. Basically, the queens have to pair up and create witch looks, one being the good witch and the other being the bad witch, but they need to also develop a backstory and present it as a voiceover on the main stage. So there are a lot of components to this challenge. There are the design looks themselves. There's the cohesion in the looks. Like, are they related as witches? And then there's the storyline, and then there's how they perform the voiceover on the main stage. There are so many aspects, and it's never really explained which ones are the most important. You go into a design challenge expecting the actual garments to be the main focus, but when it comes to the judging, that doesn't actually seem like the case. And I feel like no team excelled at every single aspect, and that's why there was so much contention and arguing over who should have won this week. This was the result of my poll, but as many of the people who took it pointed out, they didn't even know what they were voting on because there were so many aspects of this challenge, so valid. So breaking down each team, Ginger and Daya go for a Queen of the Wind and a Queen of the Water storyline. Daya has this super high fashion, evil witch moment that looks fantastic, and Ginger looks, I don't know, it's kind of a mess. I mean, she doesn't look bad. It's just this very unflattering fabric and very simplistic design compared to what everyone else is wearing. But there's really no cohesion in the looks. They don't look like opposing forces or like the good and the bad. I don't think just by looking at it you can see that one is supposed to be water, one is supposed to be wind. I think you really need the voiceover to sell the concept. But when it comes to their storyline, how they performed it on the main stage, Ginger clearly killed it and made Rue laugh like a million times. So overall, it's a mixed bag for them. Cynthia and Alyssa have an insane story that's like so hard to follow. There's money guns, there's magic chanclas, there's like Cynthia talking about her liver cancer, Alyssa is talking about being trade. It is definitely the weakest of the stories, but they have some of the coolest looks and very much look like good and bad witches that are related. I like both of the looks. I think they both look fantastic. This is the best Cynthia has ever done in a design challenge. So again, kind of a mixed bag. And then Denali and Acid come out in clearly good and bad witch looks that are fire and ice, which makes total sense for their personalities and brands as well. Both of the looks are good. The story is a bit confusing, but not nearly as confusing as Alyssa and Cynthia's was, and they have good chemistry. I think that they did well. Now, when it comes to the judging, it is all over the place, and you can clearly tell that Cynthia and Ariana, who are the guest judges, because this is a Wicked-themed challenge, feel like there is a clear winning team, but Rue and Michelle and La Roche are doing everything in their power to steer them in a different direction. Like, I don't know, I have to agree with Ari and Cynthia. Denali and Acid were that team for me. Both of the looks were good, the story was good, the chemistry was there. Yes, Alyssa had a better look than both of them, and Ginger was funnier than both of them. But when it came to nailing every aspect of the challenge, and if we have to judge this in teams, no team was able to do as well in every facet of this challenge as Denali and Acid were. But instead, you have La Roach telling Ginger that she was his favorite. He had no fashion critiques for her dress, which is crazy when we have him coming back and critiquing these, like, insanely expensive garments like they're trash. He's tearing Acid's garment apart for literally no reason. I think it looks fine. They don't mention at all how Daya and Ginger don't really look like contrasting witches. All of the flaws of Ginger and Daya's package were ignored, and every single flaw they could point out in the other two teams was brought up multiple times. It's just clear that they wanted Ginger and Daya to win, and that was what was going to happen, despite 2 of the 5 judges having a very different idea of what should go down. At one point, they even say that, like, well, Ariana, you only want Denali and Acid to win because you have Grande in your last name, and you like iced coffee, and they had iced coffee in their story. Like, that's the only reason why you want them to win. And she's, like, pushing back. She's like, no, listen to me, damn it. Like, they did well. But they just kind of, like, laugh her off. It's kind of strange. It's very awkward. And something that was brought up by multiple people in the fandom at the time was this wasn't just a regular design challenge, which is something Ginger Minj has never been that great at. It was a design challenge that incorporated theater and comedy, 2 things Ginger is known for. And you're probably thinking, like, okay, Derek, that's a stretch for them to favor Ginger that hard to, like, make a challenge just for her. But every challenge in this bracket seemed perfectly lined up to go with Ginger's brand and talents. First, she can show off her comedy and theater chops despite it being a design challenge. Then it's a girl group challenge, but it's like a country one, and Ginger is the only Southern queen in this entire bracket except Cynthia, who is originally from Puerto Rico and has a Puerto Rican accent. And then the last challenge is an improv challenge, another one of Ginger's strengths. While other brackets didn't feel like anyone had a huge advantage over others in the challenges, like no one from the rock girl group was known for being a rocker. It's not like they had Daya Betty doing a rock challenge. It's not like they had Acid Betty doing an alien challenge. This was 3 challenges perfectly aligned with Ginger's brands and skills, and that is impossible to ignore looking at how the rest of this season goes. So Daya Betty and Ginger win the challenge. There's an uproar. People aren't happy. I definitely didn't think it was warranted. But I will say, people that said Ginger lost this lip sync to Daya, to Defying Gravity, are just straight up haters. Like, Ginger absolutely nailed the song and did what was expected for it. She deserved to win it, and it's not like they showed Daya anyways in the lip sync. So, moving into the Stage Cooch Challenge, the queens split into 2 groups and each perform a country song with their own written verses and choreo. I've said this before, choosing to do the challenge in a group with an alien queen, an ice skater, a rocker chick, 2 Puerto Ricans, and Ginger. Definitely a choice. Definitely clear what the intentions here are. Definitely see who's going in with a slight advantage. But this was a huge episode for Cynthia. I love Cynthia so much, but I do have to say, I was worried for her coming back this time because on season 8 and 9, she was just not able to truly shine in many challenges or runways, and I was worried the same would happen again. But after her design look the prior episode was miles better than her previous design looks, and seeing what she was able to do in this episode, I am so glad she was able to show that she can excel at Drag Race and show her best self to the world. Truly, I don't think there is a more congenial queen in the entire franchise. I mean, she is constantly uplifting her sisters, showing love and gratitude to all of us content creators and fans. She is a gem of a human, and I was so excited to see her slay this episode. Her verse was amazing, she had presence on the stage, and while her crotch was a bit wonky, her runway look might be my favorite she has ever worn on the show. I think there was a very clear top 3 this week of Denali, Cynthia, and Ginger. But when Ginger was given the win here over Cynthia, people truly lost their minds. I mean, it would have been such a wonderful comeback moment for Cuckoo to win this and get to lip sync for the win. She never won a challenge before, and she absolutely blew this one out of the park. Her and Denali were my favorites, and while Ginger did fantastic, for this being more in her lane than anyone else in this group, she didn't stand out as much as she could have. They chose to put Acid in the high placement over Cynthia, which I thought was a bit off. Acid had my favorite Miley look of the night, but she kept fussing with her hat the entire performance, trying to ensure it didn't fall off, and it was just a bit distracting. The way Cynthia wasn't even in the judges' top 3 this episode, when she was in most people's top 2, was just really sad to see. But Ginger and Denali get the win, and they lip sync to See You Again by Miley Cyrus in what's one of the most controversial lip syncs of recent years. I go into this in depth in my recent video about the most controversial lip syncs, but to give a recap, I would always rather watch a queen at the bar who's doing too much than doing too little, especially to such a high-tempo song. I mean, Ginger is literally just watching Denali for some of the performance. And then they edited Denali's big jump split moment so oddly.
It's a close call.
Cutting out the music to make it seem less impressive. Denali should have won this lip sync. The poll I put out on my story also said she should have won this lip sync. I don't know. I feel bad for Denali because she at least should have gotten this $10,000. You know, she wasn't going to make it to the next round, whatever. But she deserved that $10,000 for bucking as hard as she did. But this just wasn't Denali's moment like we all thought it was going to be, and how it probably should have been. But I feel bad because especially when the discourse was happening and everyone was saying Denali should have won, there were so many Ginger stans that were ripping Denali apart. And obviously Ginger has gotten plenty of hate as well. It's not like it's a contest. But that was a brutal week for a Denali fan, seeing so many people tearing apart Denali's performance ability, her lip-syncing style, her drag. It was like people saw the negativity towards Ginger and decided to flip it the other way, when really everyone just needed to be a bit more respectful in how they were voicing their opinions in general. There's a huge difference between me saying on my channel, I think Denali beat Ginger in this lip-sync and here's why, and then going on social media in Ginger's comments and telling her that she sucked and she robbed Denali, or tagging her in a comment saying the same thing. Like, it is fully okay to disagree with the show and their decisions. It's okay to not live for something that a queen does, but don't drag them into it and force them to read your negative opinions. It's not like I'm gonna be posting this video tagging Ginger Minj, hey bitch, talking about your win today. Like, no. But this was already looking pretty bad for Ginger. I mean, this was 2 weeks in a row that the fandom at large disagreed with her winning the challenge. And now the fandom heavily disagreed with her winning a lip sync as well. I don't know what it is with this show and Denali. They just do not live for her. But if they were smart, they would be hyping her up the way they do so many of their other favorites. I mean, Denali is a performer, and so many people would love to go watch her on tour. I mean, she's making online content. She has a great brand as the ice skater. She has a sassy, fun personality. She's great in the confessional. She's someone that seems like a no-brainer to hype up and have make a deep run in the show. But both times they cut her off at the knees in favor of other queens the fans just don't seem to live for as much. I love Denali. I've always been a huge Denali fan. And while I'm very sad she didn't make it through to the next round of the season, I'm so impressed and proud of what she was able to show in these 3 episodes. This is also the episode where Acid Betty takes over as the strategic mastermind of this bracket. She kind of sees the writing on the wall that Daya and Ginger and Denali are probably going to make it through to the next round, leaving the rest of them screwed, and she makes a plan for all of them to give their points to the same person, ensuring that one of the 3 of them can get a chance to get through. And of course, they give their points to Cuckoo, as she is such a sweetheart and deserving of the chance, especially since she should have been in the top this episode anyways. And now we have the Golden Bachelor Challenge, where everyone dresses up as a different type of dog character, and, like, I don't know, these producers aren't even hiding their fetishes anymore, are they? The challenges of this bracket feel the hardest to judge, low-key because I feel like most of the 6 do about the same. Like, all 3 episodes, there's not huge standouts or huge flops. Most people do really well across the board, and this episode was no different. But they're also hard to judge because there are so many factors. It's not just a straight up design challenge, it's a design character team challenge. It's not just an improv challenge, it's an improv challenge with very specific characters they were given that they have to meet. Like, depending on who the queen is, these many factors of each challenge either are majorly important or not important at all. This is the episode we also get the huge fight between Daya Betty and Alyssa Hunter about Alyssa not giving Daya her point the prior episode. And this whole argument was crazy. Daya was so out of pocket, and it didn't paint her in the best light. But low-key, I just liked that there was some drama going on that really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It was just fun to watch Daya be delusional and Alyssa Hunter, like, eat her up. Like, I love Daya Betty. I love her. And it's sad that the show totally forgot she existed the second we get to the merge. But you can't say it wasn't satisfying watching her get, like, chewed by Alyssa. This was also good because it painted Alyssa in a really sympathetic light, and like I said, watching her verbally destroy Ginger and Daya in the matter of seconds was so iconic. I mean, Alyssa wasn't a huge standout in most of these challenges, so I'm glad that she got kind of these moments to really show us more about her and have the audience, like, rooting for her and, like, being on her side in this predicament that she's in. So, moving to the challenge, I was so fucking scared they were going to be cringe as hell, and some moments were, mostly the ones with RuPaul. But in general, I thought everyone did a super good job. I loved this challenge the first time they did it on All Stars 3, and I wouldn't be mad if they brought it back again. Looking at each pair, Ginger and Alyssa were both funny to me, but I mean, Ginger kind of steamrolled this. Like, even if her humor isn't my taste necessarily, I can't argue that she was so quick and had so many funny gags, like drinking her drink like a dog and all of the little things that she did. Alyssa tried to keep up, and I give her props because I don't think she did bad, but it's Ginger Minj in an improv challenge. I mean, come on. Denali and Daya were my favorite duo. They had such great chemistry. They had so many bits and jokes, especially in the pool. They were just both incredible in this challenge, in my opinion. And then Acid and Cynthia did okay, but, like, they were a bit more awkward, and they didn't have the best chemistry together. But looking at the runway, this is one of the best runways of the entire season, if not the best of the season. I mean, literally 5 out of the 6 looks could be shoots. Poor Cynthia didn't deliver, but everyone else looked phenomenal. Things get a bit dicey this episode when it comes to the critiques, because they literally critique Denali for being the exact character she was told to be. Like, the description of her dog was an emotional support dog who happens to be very needy. And when she gets critiqued, they say that they didn't like that she was so whiny and needy because she was supposed to be the emotional support dog. Make it make sense. Like, Ginger only focused on half of her description, and it wasn't called out. Like, Ginger's description was a Saint Bernard who was a first responder, but is also a bit of a boozy floozy. Ginger got the boozy part down, but I don't think she ever brought up being a first responder. She absolutely should have been critiqued for that, and Denali absolutely should not have been critiqued for delivering the exact character that they asked for. They just needed a reason to keep Denali out of the top, since Daya needed a win here in order to make it through. And don't get me wrong, Daya did great this episode too, but I think Ginger and Denali winning here makes absolute sense, and the poll results were very clear on that as well. So, Ginger and Daya win the episode. Daya annihilates the lip sync, putting her and Ginger through to the next round. And despite Denali winning a challenge, Cynthia is given enough points by her alliance that it puts Cynthia through above her. Genuinely, I think if it was anyone else in Cynthia's position, they would have gotten a lot of hate for going through over Denali. But, like, it's Cynthia. Come on. She deserves every good thing that ever comes her way. So it absolutely sucks for Denali, and I do think she should have gotten at least 2 wins in this bracket. But I won't say I'm upset Cynthia was the one to take her place. Dare I say, I also think Denali would have annihilated all of the merge episodes. And if she's someone that they don't want winning, not having her there does make their lives a lot easier. She did super well in Snatch Game on her season, and as we saw, this Snatch Game on All Stars 10 was not good. So she wouldn't even really need to do that well to be in the top. And then, like, a talent show, imagine what that would be, incredible. And then a lip sync finale, like, Denali could have slayed the entire merge. And I think that's probably why she did not make it through to the merge, if I had to guess. So that is the 3 brackets of the first half of the season. So as we can see, the scores for this bracket are much lower. Everything is basically like 5 or below. We have performances at 6 and runways at 6.31. Everything else is a 5 or a 4. And the audience score is a 4.38, which is like about half of what the other brackets got. So this clearly was not liked by fans or by my fellow content creators.
I'm gonna just put a totally lukewarm take out there that won't make people mad at me. All of this could have been avoided if Ginger Minj won season 7.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying all along.
Because I love Ginger. I think Ginger's very talented. I think Ginger was very clearly in a higher caliber than some folks in her bracket just based on like pure kind of performance talent. But because it's a game and because all of these other queens in this bracket, didn't matter who they were going to recognize Ginger Minj as a threat and probably not give her any points because of her reputation and whatever. They had to make her threat proof, thus putting her in the top every episode. Which is a recipe for disaster.
Do you feel like her wins weren't warranted?
And it sucks because I say this as a Ginger Minj fan. I think the last one was. I think the first 2 could have definitely been argued.
That's kind of what my polls said as well.
I think, honestly, to make people less mad about it, they should have put Ginger at first in the first bracket, and then everybody would have forgotten about it. But, like, making that the bracket that you end on just keeps it in people's minds like, oh, Ginger's gonna win this season. Most definitely. Here we are.
And then she goes on to win 4 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
So now we are at the merge. We have our 9 queens who are moving forward. And dare I say, these episodes were kind of anticlimactic. And I feel like a lot of the queens fall into the background. Like, Irene and Daya literally totally disappear from the edit. And the story becomes mostly about Mistress wreaking havoc on everybody in sight. But Aja is also one of the main queens from these episodes. We learn a lot about her life and her struggles back home outside of the competition, and maybe some of the things that have been holding her back. And in the second merge episode, her fight with Mistress is an iconic moment on the season. Like, Mistress pulling her hair back and laughing in her ear, I will never forget that moment. But I do feel like Mistress kind of backed herself into a corner here because she, I think, took things so far in her villainy that I think it kind of turned the audience against her in a bad way, especially the moment where she made fun of Aja's living situation. That's just like too far. It kind of feels like the only satisfying conclusion of these episodes is Mistress getting her comeuppance and getting sent home. And that is exactly what happens, as she is in the bottom for both episodes. Like, this literally is Mistress wreaking havoc and then immediately getting served humble pie. Like, that is all that these merge episodes are about. So, getting into the episodes, we're going to kind of fly by this Snatch Game because there wasn't any Riggory and it wasn't good. Ginger and Georges are the top 2, and that does make sense. But neither were, like, hilarious. Like, most people were pretty average. And I'm not sure I laughed more than like twice during the whole Snatch Game. Cynthia unfortunately gets sent home here, which is sad since she was given a chance to really prove herself after getting pushed through. But as we saw with her original Snatch Game, this is just not her challenge. And with her runway also being a boot, it felt correct that this was her moment to leave. But the next episode, the talent show, people had a lot of thoughts on this challenge. I low-key heavily disagree with the ranking that was given in my poll because I think Ginger should be a lot higher. I think at this point people just had Ginger fatigue, but you had her ranked at 4, and I feel like Ginger annihilated this talent show. Like, I feel like this was by far her best one and one of the best of the night. If her runway was better, she could have even gotten her 5th win in a row here. But this did feel like Bosco's moment. Her talent show was sexy and funny and campy and stupid. Basically all the things we love about Bosco. And her runway was absolutely stunning. One of the best she has ever given. We just really need to give Bosco some love for her runway package this season because holy shit, she really stepped up her game from the panties and the bras that she wore on season 14. The real gag of this episode, though, is Aja just being safe and Georges being in the top over her. Georges has done 3 talent shows now, and this one might be my least favorite of the 3. Like, maybe because it was just such a downgrade from her exceptional talent show on All Stars 9. This was fine, but nothing special. Aja also had a lot to live up to with this challenge after her incredible talent show on All Stars 3. And while I don't think this was as good as that one, I think it was a lot closer than Georges's was. I mean, her dancing with a sword, her doing this intense choreo, she's rapping, it was everything. But La Roche was on some bullshit tonight, ripping apart basically everybody in a way that didn't feel constructive. It almost just felt like he was making fun of their looks. And I felt that way about him the last few times that he's judged. I'll never forget him telling Geneva Carr she looked like Danny DeVito, which, like, that's not even critique, that's just an insult. You know what I mean? Like, as a judge, you should be helping and guiding these queens, and telling someone that their looks look like a cheap plastic tiara knockoff is not the tea. Aja absolutely should have been in the top this episode instead of Georges, but the bottom of Lydia and Mistress did feel correct. And it sucks because they were the only 2 to not just lip sync to their own song. And I hate the message that this keeps sending to future queens, like, to not take risks. But Mistress's Ruzempic, or whatever it was just so chaotic. And it was packed full of jokes, but it was hard to keep up because of how fast it went. And Lydia had some wardrobe malfunctions despite having a really funny kind of burlesque number as Humpty Dumpty. But both of these talents, I thought they were still good. I just think everyone did super well here, so tiny mistakes landed people in the bottom. Lydia and Mistress lip sync to Guess by Charlie XCX and Billie Eilish, and, well, we'll just say that won't be the last time you'll see this song on a drag competition this year. Lydia takes it, and we are down to our top 7. But now we have to do that wildcard pick they have been teasing all season for some reason. And I'm just gonna say it, I hate this. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's very clearly rigged. I think it's very clearly set up. Michelle and T.S. Madison pick Carrie Colby because, because she's the only LA queen on this cast and they don't have to pay for a ticket or schedule a flight to get her there. And, like, let's be real, like, if the queens are just living their lives, they can't all just, like, put their lives on hold to maybe get a call, to maybe get a plane, to maybe go back to LA for, like, one day of filming. It just makes sense to have someone local jump right in, and it's no big deal. And then Ross picks Mistress because she's still on set. Even though Ross wasn't even judging this week, had no idea that she wouldn't be in the competition anymore, yet he picks Mistress. Like, they could not make this less obvious. Like, please, just make it a little bit less obvious. I'm begging. Carrie is chosen as the wild card, and sure. So now she is a finalist along with the rest of the top 7. And I'm just really disappointed they couldn't get more episodes this season. So we could watch, like, the 9 that made it through the brackets, like, whittle down to, like, a 4 or a 3. That would have made it feel way less anticlimactic. And it would have felt like a true tournament, like it truly mattered, not just, like, some brackets and then 2 episodes and then a really rushed finale. Speaking of the finale, wow. There is so much to discuss. I polled all of you on who you thought won each lip sync, and we will dive into those thoughts as well as everything else that went on here. My first big issue with this finale is the seeding. They do rate a queen and rank everyone's lip syncing skills, but the order that comes out of it is suspicious. Even Aja called it out. You're telling me that Aja is 6th. Ginger is 1st over Georges and Aja? If you look at the seeds and who ended up with who, it's all just too perfect for the rate a queen to have been fair. Ginger gets to go against a queen who has yet to really slay a lip sync on the show and got ranked last. Lydia gets to go against Irene, who lost 3 lip syncs on the show already. Georges gets to go against Aja, and Georges is probably the only queen on this cast that can beat Aja in a lip sync. And then the 2 best friends, Bosco and Daya, get to go against each other, leading to an emotional moment. I think it's pretty clear at this point from the edit and the placements throughout the season that Ginger, Georges, Lydia, and Bosco are the 4 production favorites, and they were all set up perfectly to win their first lip syncs. Like, a little too perfect. Aja had to be at number 6, and Georges had to be at number 3 for them to go against each other. Bosco and Daya had to be above Aja right in the middle to be able to go against each other. If we saw more strategy going on in the Rate a Queen room, maybe I would believe that they tanked Aja, but the only person we saw putting any strategy into their decision-making was Irene, and it was just to put Lydia high. The next issue I have with this is that the queen lower in the seed didn't get to pick the song. In a regular Lollapalooza, one queen picks another queen to go against, and it's usually a queen they think they can beat. So to make things fair and even, the queen then gets to choose the song. That makes total sense. It makes it more even, it makes it more fair. They each came in with an advantage in some way. But here, a random ball draw got to pick which queen picked the song, and in 3 out of 4 cases, it was the queen who was higher in the seed. And in the 4th case, it was Bosco, the 4th production favorite. So the 4 people that I think production was favoring all season long are the 4 that got to pick their song. Shocker. Literally everything about this format was set up for the top 4 to succeed. But even then, they had to rig certain outcomes to fit what they wanted to happen. So first up is Ginger Minj versus Carrie Colby, and Ginger picks the song Disease by Lady Gaga for some reason. I will say, the songs in this tournament were everything. Literally 10s across the board. I loved every song. But Raise Your Glass was right there for Ginger. Like, that song was made for Ginger Minj. So why she picked Disease, I have no clue, but whatever. Carrie is giving exactly what this song calls for. She's giving dirty, she's giving grimy, she's giving evil, she's rolling her eyes back into her skull. Ginger is doing fine, but it's not anything great, and it's not anything that's, like, specific to this song. Carrie is performing this song. I will say neither are, like, killing it. It's not like, you know, what we would expect for Disease, but if I had to pick someone who is performing this song better, to me, it's clearly Carrie. And at one point, it's so clear that Carrie's winning that they have to insert a bullshit confessional from Irene saying, Carrie, why aren't you taking your hair down? Like, what are you doing, girl? Take down your hair, to justify her losing. And it's like, she's saving a reveal for the next lip sync. Like, she doesn't need to be doing too much right now. She's already winning. And according to my poll, Carrie did win this lip sync with 69% of the votes. Nice. And I would have to agree. But there's no way that they're going to boot Ginger in the first round against someone that they just brought back to be cannon fodder. So, Ginger wins the second lip sync of the season that we didn't think she deserved to win. And next up is Irene versus Lydia to Joyride by Kesha. Love this song, but I feel like they both could have given more. But Irene takes a fall, so of course she loses. And the poll agrees with 93% saying that Lydia won this. No Riggory here. Next up is Aja versus Georges to Party Lights by Natalie Cole. Never heard the song before, but I am now a fan. I've added it to my playlist. And of course, Georges gets to pick the song since they're trying to knock Aja out here. And they both kill it. But I will say, Aja has a very strange reveal. She's in this, like, Alejandro Catholic fashion moment for some reason and reveals into just, like, a regular dance costume. Not sure it was needed, but they both are killing it. I do think Georges wins by a hair. And according to the poll, they would agree 66% said that Georges won. One of Georges's biggest critiques from previous seasons is that she is an incredible dancer, but she doesn't show enough emotion in her face when she performs. And you can tell that she worked on that since all of the lip syncs tonight, she is emoting. Like, this is Georges in her final form, truly. The last lip sync of the first round is between Bosco and Daya, and of course, Bosco gets to pick the song she could do the burlesque number to, wearing a burlesque number. So of course, Bosco wins, and the poll agrees. But we get this really sweet moment between the two where Daya doesn't want to go up against her friend. And I wish this relationship was focused on more during the merge episodes because it would have made this moment feel even more powerful. So now we have our top 4, and Ginger gets to go against Bosco, and wow, shocker, Ginger gets to pick the song. And considering that one would highly favor Ginger and the other would highly favor Bosco, Ginger getting to pick the song is a huge advantage here. She picks Raise Your Glass by Pink because it's literally made for her. It has so many funny ad-libs and like random funny lyrics. This is so up Ginger's alley. And dare I say, I was thinking we were about to get another phone moment, but Ginger just does fine. Like, she clearly wins. The poll agrees that she won, but I don't think she knocked it out of the park like I thought she would. Then we have Georges and Lydia to Whenever, Wherever by Shakira. And this may be the closest lip sync of the night, in my opinion. They both kill it, but nobody can outdance Georges, so she wins. But it is an incredible, incredible lip sync, and 88% of people agree that Georges won. That leaves the top 2 of the season as Ginger Minj and Georges. Yes, the 2 that everyone assumed would be top 2 of the season when the cast dropped, because production is obviously obsessed with them and has pushed them in prior seasons as well, are the top 2 of the season. I am stunned. I'm shocked. I'm flabbergasted, if you can't tell. They lip sync to It's Raining Men by the Weather Girls. It's a great finale song, and it's low-key perfect for these two because they can both show off their strengths to it. It's an easy song to dance to for Georges, but it's also really easy to camp up for Ginger. And Georges dances to this song. She dances to the highest of her ability. And what we needed from Ginger was for her to do that, but with her comedy. But again, Ginger does well, but she doesn't kill it like I thought she would when I heard that she would be doing this song. I'm sorry, but based on this finale, Georges pulled out 3 incredible lip syncs, some of the best she has ever done. She was fighting. You could tell how bad she wanted to win. Ginger pulled out 3 fine lip syncs, but we've seen Ginger do so much better in so many of her past lip syncs, like I Think We're Alone Now, Phone, Show Me Love. Ginger can annihilate a lip sync, but for all 3 of these, she just did okay. But to no one's shock, Ginger Minj wins All Stars 10. And I don't want to rain men on her parade too hard. I mean, she did have some amazing performances this season in The Bachelor, in the Snatch Game, in the talent show. She brought some amazing runways. She did super well. But if we're basing this finale on who won these lip syncs, I think Ginger only won 1 of her 3. And the polls agreed. In the It's Raining Men poll, 77% of you thought Georges won, and I would have to agree. I do feel bad for Georges. I mean, you can tell how badly she wanted this, and she fought like hell. But she'll be getting booked now until she's like 87. I mean, she showed she really is one of the best dancing divas this show has ever seen.
Everything about this was stupid. For a couple reasons. Let me explain why. Number 1, the Rated Queen bullshit has nothing to do with anything. Who cares? Literally, who cares? Doing a finale with a top 7 with a random wild card coming back is ridiculous. You know that wild card's not gonna win if they missed the goddamn semifinals. Nobody wants to see that person win. And the person that you want to win the whole season is Ginger's a good lip syncer, but if you see her lip sync against this many queens doing this many styles of music in one episode, it is very apparent that maybe your finale should not have revolved around a lip sync tournament when you have queens like Aja and Lydia and Georges present. Thank you. That's my time.
Do you think that this season succeeded in what it was trying to do?
No, I don't like the brackets. I think they're dumb.
Do you think next season will be better with the brackets? Do you think they learned anything?
No, because they never learn anything when it comes to All Stars. And again, I have said this so many times on Patreon and on stream. It is so funny when people are like, wow, this season started off so strong and then it got so bad. So you're just watching an All-Star season. That is what All-Stars is like every season.
No, it's like a Ryan Murphy show. Like it will start out incredible, and by the end you're gonna want to literally like burn it to the ground.
It's not fun to watch.
Just like how it wouldn't be fun to watch us like this for an hour every single week, listening to the rigged recap for this season.
Well, some people claim that they would have the time of their life doing that.
And I would say you can spend an hour in therapy and it would probably be a lot better for you, I promise.
Surely it would. Surely it would.
But we will be back for the rigged recap for season 18 in January 2026, if we're all still here.
Yeah, if we're all still alive by then and we have a somewhat functioning democracy and government.
If we're able to make queer content, we won't be making the queer content.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Kayla, for coming and giving your expertise on being the ultimate All-Stars hater.
Thanks, Derek.
Overall, I do think this was one of the top 3 or 4 most rigged seasons of all time. The first 2 brackets showed so much promise, but once that third bracket happened, it became so clear what production wanted the outcome to be. And they were going to make that happen no matter what cost or how obvious the riggery looked. This season is getting review bombed to hell right now. People are not happy. I'm sure Twitter's been a hellscape, but I want to remind everyone again, it is not the Queen's fault. Do not direct any hate their way. I wanted so much more for this season. I wanted so much better for this season. But All Stars has proven 4 times in a row now that they are much more interested in pushing their agendas than making fun, exciting television. Let's just hope All Stars 11 is better, I guess. Thank you all so much for watching. The links to all of my social medias are in the description down below. Make sure you subscribe as we get closer and closer to 100K on this channel. And I will catch all of you in the next one.